First, let's figure out what is this symbol. It looks like a lowercase b. It is a flat. What happens when you flat a note? It lowers the note by half a step. What is this symbol? It's like a hashtag. That's the sharp sign. So then what happens when you sharp a note? It's raised by a half step. So then what is this symbol? Looks kind of like an L and a 7. That's the natural symbol. We know it's not the flat or sharp because the sharp was the hashtag and the flat was the little b. So remember, flat lowers a note half a step. A sharp raises a note a half a step. So then what happens when you have a natural sign? What does that do to a note? Well, it doesn't raise it because that's a sharp. It doesn't lower it because that's a flat. It actually cancels out the flat or sharp. So you play the natural normal note. What is an accidental? Well, it's not in the key signature. It's not an accent. It doesn't make it louder. It's a sharp, flat, or natural in a measure, but not in the key signature. What is the rule about an accidental in a measure? Look, there's that little accidental in the measure. There's an E flat there, but we don't see an E flat in the key signature, so it's an accidental. So what's the rule? It applies to the note it's in front of, yep, and it carries through the whole measure. So that means this next E would also be flat. It doesn't make the note louder. It doesn't apply to the note behind it, and it does carry through the whole measure. So if you see another E in that measure, it has to be flat. So let's see, what is that highlighted note? We know that that's an E because it's the bottom line, or that third space in the bass clef. So we know it has to be E something, so that is not D flat. And we know that that flat has to carry through, so it has to be E flat. What is the purpose of the key signature? To show you which notes to make sharp, flat, or natural in a whole entire song. So which notes are flat in this key? We can't see that right now, but it would be B and E. Which note is sharp in this key? It was F sharp. What is the highlighted note? So let's look. There's a flat in the key signature. It's on the B line. That note is natural. So that means it carries through the end of the measure. So we don't make it a B flat. It would be B flat if there weren't a natural there. So it's actually B natural. There is an actual order of the flats as well. The order of the flats spells bead, B-E-A-D, and then G-C-F. Bead, G-C-F. Bead, G-C-F is the order of the flats. What is the order of the sharps? The order of the sharps is the opposite of the order of the flats. So because F was last, now F is going to be first. So it's F, C, G, D, A, E, B. You can come up with a funny saying. Flying cats go dancing around every bend. Come up with something fun to help you remember that. And then what is the trick for figuring out a flat key signature? There's an easy trick. Just look at the second to last flat, and that's the name of the key. Like if you saw two flats, B and E, look at that order of the flats. If you saw B and E, look at the second to last one. The second to last one would have been B, so it's B flat. What is the trick for figuring out a sharp key? So the trick for sharp keys is look at the last sharp, think one note up from that, and that's the key. So if you saw an F sharp in the key signature, one note up from F is G. So the key is G major if you see one sharp. Okay, so one sharp is G major. Two flats is B flat major. What are enharmonic tones? Those are notes that sound the same but look different. Like a C sharp is a D flat. You're fingering it the same, 1, 2, 3 on trumpet or just pinky on flute. It looks different, but it actually is the same note. It's like having nicknames, right? Enharmonic tones are like nicknames. The same person, but two different names. The same note just looks different. We call them something different. What is an example of an enharmonic equivalent? Two notes that sound the same, but are just named differently. So C sharp and D flat are the same. E flat and D sharp. You're never going to have two sharps as the same or two flats as the same. One way to figure this out, if you're starting with a sharp note, think one note up and flat it. One note up from C is D and then flat it, D flat. The opposite is true for flats. Think one note down and then sharp it. And that's how you can figure out the enharmonic tone.